My name is Claire Bennett, and I thought I knew what humiliation felt like. Until that night. The valet took my keys with a polite smile as I stepped out of my car, the wind catching the hem of my navy silk dress. It was the kind of night that smelled expensive: cologne, champagne, and polished ambition. The entire downtown hotel glittered for the Bennett family celebration banquet, honoring the people behind Bennett Enterprises. My husband's family. I'd spent the afternoon trying to choose earrings that said I'm proud, not desperate. Funny, I didn't realize pride would be the only thing I'd have left by the end of the evening. Inside, crystal chandeliers spilled golden light across laughter and clinking glasses. I could already hear my husband's voice from the ballroom. Confident, charming, that tone he used when he was being adored. But before I could take another step, a woman at the reception desk stopped me. Her expression was kind but stiff, like someone delivering bad news rehearsed too many times. "Mrs. Bennett?" she asked, checking the list. I'm so sorry, but your name isn't here. You're not on the guest list." For a second, I thought it was a joke. Then I saw the hesitation in her eyes, and the pity. Laughter burst from the ballroom, and through the half-open doors, I caught a glimpse of my husband raising a glass. He looked happy. Free. I stood there in my heels, heart pounding, and whispered to no one in particular, "Of course I'm not." Her story truly begins here, at the door she wasn't allowed to walk through. I used to believe love could fix anything. Back then, I was 26, fresh out of grad school, and naive enough to think that marriage meant belonging. When I first met Ethan Bennett, he wasn't the man in the tailored suit and polished smile I'd later learned to fear. He was a little awkward, charming in a shy way. We met at a charity auction. He bid on a painting I couldn't afford but adored. The next morning, he showed up at my office with it wrapped in brown paper and said, "Every brilliant woman deserves a view." I should have remembered that line because years later, I realized he never wanted me to be the view. He wanted me to decorate his life. His family welcomed me with champagne smiles and measuring eyes. His mother, Vivian, would tilt her head and say, "Oh, Claire, you're different." Ethan's always liked challenges. His father, all business and legacy, spoke to me as if I were a charming intern rather than his son's wife. I laughed it off, at first. I tried harder. I wore their version of tasteful, bit my tongue when they interrupted, and smiled through dinners where I felt invisible. I told myself they'd love me eventually. The night that cracked something inside me was a year into our marriage. Vivian had hosted one of her famous galas, a fundraiser, the kind that made social magazines. I overheard her talking to one of the guests near the powder room. "She's harmless," she said. "Pretty, polite, not exactly our circle, but Ethan's young. He'll grow out of it." I stood there, hidden behind the door, my lipstick trembling against my teeth. That was the night I took off my grandmother's locket, the only thing that ever made me feel like me, and held it in my palm until the metal grew warm. My grandmother used to say, "Never beg for a seat at a table you helped set." The next morning, I found Ethan reading the newspaper like nothing happened. I asked him if his family ever truly accepted me. He didn't even look up. "They just need time," he said. "Try not to take things so personally." That was the moment I realized it wasn't about time. It was about place. And I'd never been welcome at theirs. So I made a silent promise that morning. If I couldn't belong in their world, I'd build one of my own. It started small, like most quiet revolutions do. After that gala night, something inside me just went still. The kind of still that comes before a storm. Ethan didn't notice, of course. Men like him rarely do. He was too busy building his family's empire, while I smiled through social events and learned how to fade into the wallpaper. One afternoon, while scrolling through job listings, I stumbled on an ad for a freelance branding consultant. I had a degree in marketing, but hadn't worked since our wedding. Still, something about that post pulled me in. Maybe it was the word independent. I sent in my resume, half expecting nothing. A week later, I got the job. It paid next to nothing, but it was mine. Every morning, after Ethan left for the office, I'd sit at the small desk in our guest room, hair tied up, laptop open, coffee beside me, and work. I rediscovered the rhythm of my own mind, the thrill of solving problems, creating campaigns, seeing my ideas turn into something that mattered. Ethan thought I was just keeping busy. His mother found it cute. I let them think it was a hobby. Months turned into years. One client turned into 3, then 10. I started a small agency under my maiden name, Claire Monroe Consulting. No one in the Bennett family knew. I wanted it that way. There was something intoxicating about secrecy, about success no one could taint with their approval or condescension. The first time I received a payment that matched Ethan's monthly salary, I cried. Not from greed, but from freedom. I finally had something no one could take from me. My turning point came when I met Margaret Steele, an older woman with sharp eyes and a softer heart. She'd run one of New York's top PR firms before retiring. She became my mentor, my mirror, my proof that power didn't have to look masculine. She once told me, "The moment you stop explaining yourself, Claire, is the moment they start paying attention." And she was right. Under her guidance, my agency grew. I hired a small team, all women who'd been underestimated at some point. We worked from coffee shops, late nights, weekends. There was laughter, frustration, caffeine, and a sense of becoming. Meanwhile, at home, Ethan still thought I spent my days lunching or redecorating. He didn't ask, and I didn't tell. He never noticed the new confidence in my tone or the quiet pride behind my calm smile. Every dinner, I'd listen to him talk about his family's achievements, their strategic growth, their vision. I'd nod, sip my wine, and think about the contracts I'd just signed, some of which were with companies bigger than theirs. The irony wasn't lost on me. By the time my agency won a national award under a private label partnership, I realized something beautiful. I didn't need their seat at the table. I'd built one, and women like me were already sitting around it. Still, I never bragged. I never confronted him. I just waited, because deep down I knew there would come a day when all of it would surface. And when it did, I wanted to be the calmest person in the room. I don't remember deciding to walk inside that night. My body just moved. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was defiance. But when the receptionist looked at me again, all I said was, "Don't worry. They'll know who I am." The double doors swung open, flooding me with light, laughter, and the sound of a microphone. My heels clicked against the marble floor as heads began to turn. Ethan stood at the podium, mid-speech. And none of this would have been possible without the dedication and heart of our family. The Bennett legacy continues stronger than ever. His eyes found me halfway through that sentence. For a heartbeat, his confidence faltered. The ballroom was beautiful, all white florals and crystal glass, with banners that read, "Celebrating the Bennett Foundation's new partnership with Monroe and Company." My company, my name, right there in gold. I felt a strange calm wash over me. So that was it. The big family celebration. They'd signed a deal with my own agency, and didn't even know it. The guests began whispering. Vivian's smile froze as she saw me. Ethan stepped down from the stage, his jaw tightening. "Claire," he hissed under his breath. "What are you doing here?" "I was invited," I said softly. "Just not by you." He blinked, confused. The host, a kind man from the charity board, approached the mic again. "And before we continue," he said cheerfully, "I'd like to extend a special thanks to Ms. Claire Monroe, founder and CEO of Monroe and Company, whose partnership made tonight possible." Silence. Every Bennett froze. The same people who once called me harmless now stared at me, as if seeing a ghost. Vivian's fingers trembled around her champagne glass. Ethan's father turned pale. Ethan whispered, "Claire, what the hell is this?" I turned to him, my voice calm, almost tender. "It's business, Ethan. The kind you never thought I understood." Gasps rippled through the room. A few guests clapped awkwardly, not sure which side of the story they were applauding. I stepped up to the microphone. "Good evening," I began, my voice steady. "It's an honor to be here, even if I wasn't technically on the list." A few polite laughs broke the tension. When my team at Monroe and Company was approached about this partnership, I didn't realize it was tied to the Bennett Foundation. Imagine my surprise when I saw the final documents. I let my eyes wander across the room, lingering on Vivian's tight smile. For years, I thought I had to earn a place in this family, to prove I was worthy of your last name. But somewhere along the way, I learned something better, that you can't earn respect from people determined not to give it. The crowd was utterly silent now, hanging on every word. I stand here tonight not as Ethan's wife, I continued, but as the woman who built something of her own, without anyone's permission. Margaret's words echoed in my head. The moment you stop explaining yourself, they start paying attention. And they were. Every last one of them. Ethan's voice cracked. You could have told me. I smiled faintly. You could have asked. I handed the mic back, turned toward the doors, and began to walk away. The applause started slow, one person, then another, until the sound filled the entire hall. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Because in that moment I knew I was finally being seen, not as the quiet wife behind a powerful man, but as the woman who built her own empire, quietly, beautifully, while no one was watching. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Ethan, Vivian, even his father. I didn't answer a single call. By noon, I was back at my office. Glass walls, soft music, the scent of coffee and sandalwood candles. My name gleamed on the door in brushed gold. Claire Monroe Consulting. My table was lined with fresh white orchids from clients who respected me, not pitied me. When the elevator chimed, I knew it was them before the doors opened. Ethan walked in first, eyes hollow from a sleepless night. Behind him trailed Vivian, wrapped in pearls, and Mr. Bennet, his tie perfectly straight, as if he could still fix everything with posture. Claire, Ethan started carefully. We need to talk. I gestured toward the seating area. Then talk. He hesitated, glancing around my office like it was foreign territory. You embarrassed us last night. No, I said evenly. You embarrassed yourselves. I just existed in the room. Vivian's composure cracked first. You should have told us, she said tightly. We didn't know the contract was mine. I finished. That's the point, Vivian. You never care enough to ask who I was beyond your son's last name. Her husband cleared his throat. We may have underestimated you. I smiled, not bitter, not mocking. Just tired. You didn't underestimate me, Mr. Bennet. You dismissed me. Silence. Only the faint ticking of the wall clock filled the air. Ethan finally spoke, voice softer now. Claire, I made mistakes. I was caught between. I cut him off gently. Don't say them and me, Ethan. You always chose them. Every time. He dropped his gaze. For a long moment, I looked at all three of them, the family that once defined my worth, now standing in a room I built from nothing. I realized this was my closure, my turning point. I'm not here to punish anyone, I said. But if you truly want to make things right, start by changing how you treat people you think are beneath you. Hire women who've been overlooked. Fund the interns you ignore. And Ethan, he looked up, eyes searching mine. Stop living for their approval, I said softly. It's the only thing that's ever kept you small. He swallowed hard, and for once, he didn't argue. Vivian's voice broke slightly. And what about us, Claire? Are we done? I exhaled. I'm done being invisible. What you do from here is up to you. They left quietly. No shouting, no grand apologies, just silence, and the soft click of the door closing behind them. As I stood by the window, watching their car disappear down the street, I felt something uncoil inside me. Not vengeance, but release. For the first time in years, I wasn't trying to prove anything. I didn't need their approval, their name, or their invitations. I already had everything I once begged for. Peace, purpose, and the right to take up space in my own story. And this time I wasn't giving any of it back. 2 months later, I found myself sitting by the window of my new apartment, sunlight spilling across pale curtains, the city humming below. The mornings had become my favorite part of the day. No more forced smiles over cold breakfasts. No more pretending. Just quiet, clarity, and coffee in a chipped mug that somehow tasted better than the crystal ones in the Bennet mansion ever did. I was different now, not harder, just lighter. The kind of woman who didn't need to be seen to feel seen. That morning, an email notification blinked across my laptop screen. Contract renewal. Bennett Foundation X Monroe and Company. I smiled. They'd kept their promise. Vivian had personally reached out a week earlier, not to apologize, exactly, but to thank me for giving her a perspective she'd never considered. Progress comes in strange shapes. Sometimes it's an empire. Sometimes it's just a small change in someone who once underestimated you. Ethan never called again. But last week, he sent a handwritten note through my assistant. You were right. I didn't ask. I hope one day I'll learn to. I read it once, folded it neatly, and tucked it into the same drawer that held my grandmother's locket. That locket, the one I used to clutch when I felt small, now hung from a frame on my desk, open to a tiny inscription she once engraved. Never beg for a seat at a table you helped set. I smiled at it every morning, not out of nostalgia, but as a quiet reminder of everything that line had built. In the corner of my office stood a large oak table, polished, surrounded by women of every background. My team, my family. They laughed, argued, created, and celebrated together. No hierarchy, no pedigree, just purpose. Sometimes, I'd catch them teasing me. Boss, you're too soft-hearted for someone that powerful. Maybe they were right, but I liked my softness. It kept me human. That evening, as the city lights shimmered below my window, I closed my laptop and whispered a thank you, not to anyone in particular, but to the version of me who once stood outside that ballroom, uninvited but unbroken. Because she's the reason I'm here. And maybe that's the real irony of it all. They told me I wasn't on the list. But it turns out, I was writing the guest list all along.